right. Hi, guys. Just finishing getting set up a little bit here. There we go. Okay, I guess we're live. I don't know who's on. I'm just going to give it a little few minutes and then we'll start at 7. I'm using my laptop for this. I don't know. I don't know if it's too dark. I've never done this before, so I guess we'll just see how it goes. Oh, I don't think we want to do that. Okay. We'll go sans glasses. Okay, so boy, I wish. Do I turn on the lights back there? Maybe I do. Is that gonna be too bright now? I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. I don't know. It's not great. Okay, so how this is going to work is I'm going to play the movie on VHS and I'm going to talk through it. So there might be a couple of times where I don't know about that actually. There might be a couple of times where I just watch the movie, but most of the time I'm going to talk through it. I have all my accessories ready to go. So I hope that you enjoy this and that you love Die Hard and that you're going to watch Die Hard with me. And if not, then great. We can just you can just listen to me pontificate about Die Hard. I'm really hoping that my laptop doesn't um, freeze, but I think it won't. So, oh, it's 7 o'clock. Okay, great. So I'm going to pop in Die Hard on VHS, and I'm going to let you know when to start playing. Start playing basically from the 20th Century Fox logo. Okay, hold on. So I apologize again if the lighting is shitty, but this is the first time I've done this, so I'm sure future versions will be better angles, better lighting. So this is the CBS Fox edition of the movie. I'm seeing the 20th Century Fox logo, and for some reason it's not squeezed. And in the theatrical version, or in the version that's on DVD and digital, the logo is squeezed. And I actually have a little info about that. I think it's like the only 20th Century Fox movie that has the logo squeezed. So it looks stretched as an assistant editor accidentally used a non-anamorphic version of the logo, which was stretched when projected as widescreen. The producer liked the look of it, and the same version was used for the sequel. So there you go. So the 20th Century Fox fanfare reminds me of basically two movies. It reminds me of Star Wars, and it reminds me of Die Hard. And I've seen this movie. I don't even know, maybe 100 times, maybe more. We watched it first on VHS as a family, as kids, probably in around 1989, or I mean, it had to have been before Die Hard 2 because I distinctly remember seeing Die Hard 2 in the theater. with my parents. And so I was born in 77. So I was probably like 11 when the first movie came out. So I probably saw the first movie when I was 11 and the second movie when I was 13. I have all three movies on VHS. I have this one. I have Die Hard 2. And I believe these are the actual VHSs that I've had since I was a kid. Um, so let me just make sure that everybody's. Yep. Okay. Welcome. Uh, and um, oh, I didn't say to start the movie. Shoot. Okay, start the movie. Uh, okay. Do I need to rewind it? I don't know that anybody's really on yet. But anyway, um, so I love this movie. I've seen it so many times with my family. It was like a Christmas tradition to watch this movie, and um, same with Die Hard 2. I just love it. And so I have, so as I was saying, so I have Die Hard 2 on VHS, and I have Die Hard with a Vengeance on VHS. And I love these movies. I don't love Die Hard 3 as much. Uh, the first hour is fun, but it's a little bit more cartoony than the first two movies. The first two movies are a little bit more straight ahead um, action and drama. Got my eggnog. Happy holidays. We're a little early for that, but happy holidays. The thing I love about this movie is right from the very beginning, it's plot and character. You know, most action movies these days start with a big action scene and then do a little character stuff and then get into the plot. But this actually starts quite quietly. But from the very first scene with McClane on the plane, talking to the guy about fists with your toes, I mean, that conversation sets up the movie. I mean, that sets up him making fists with his toes, and then the terrorists come, and then he doesn't have his shoes on. And in that conversation, he reveals that he's a cop. Um, the next scene, we are introduced to Holly. We see her company. She calls her kids. It's like nonstop setting up of story and character and plot, and that stuff is all going to pay off throughout the movie. And I just think Bonnie Bedelia is so great in this movie that I've been reading over the last few days. McTiernan talks about how in the original script, the McClane character was kind of a suave, had it all together on a guy, and he didn't want that. He wanted McClane to be an average Joe. So he's never been in a limo, so he doesn't know you're supposed to sit in the back. He sits in the front. Um, the view of Nakatomi heading down Olympic. So when I first moved to LA, I went down Olympic and drove towards the Fox Tower and saw that actual view through my windshield, and that was a crazy experience to to see that to see that view that was from something that was so memorable to me from that movie. It's actually a total coincidence that Die Hard is being re-released in theaters this weekend. I thought, oh, let's do a live. Let's do my first live. It's Christmas time. Let's talk about my favorite Christmas movie, and actually one of my favorite movies of all time, and Die Hard. And the timing just worked out like that. I love the use of Chris and Hollis. If you notice, like the opening credits go for almost 10 minutes as we get taken through McLean arriving in LA in the limo, Holly. Finally, the directed by John McTiernan happens as the limo pulls up to Nakatomi. It takes some skill to deliver plot and backstory and exposition in a very natural seeming way, and this movie does such a great job of that. And a lot of it is due to Bruce Willis. He's very natural and very easygoing and likable, like from the very beginning with the grin, and he does seem like an everyday kind of dude. Um, so the the if you don't know, I'm just going to talk about the movie as if you don't know all this stuff. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But the movie was based on a novel called Nothing Lasts Forever, which was the sequel to a novel called The Detective, which was made into a movie starring Frank Sinatra. So technically, uh, Frank Sinatra had the whatever the word is, the rights to do Nothing Lasts Forever. But when the time came, he decided he was too old and it wasn't going to work for him to do that. So he passed. And um, Nothing Lasts Forever, according to what I was reading, actually very similar to Die Hard. There's a character named Al Powell. There's a character instead of Holly Gennaro, it's Stephanie Gennaro. Um, there's a lot of similarities. There's even a building exploding or on fire on the cover of the book, and so they gave the book to the screenwriter Jeb Stewart, and I guess he had sold a script, and it wasn't like they hired this new writer to write Die Hard. They just hired this guy to adapt this book, and so he adapted it and changed some things and made some things better, and as the movie progressed, they brought on Joel Silver to produce. Joel Silver had produced Predator before, and I think Lethal Weapon before, and he had a lot of big hits. And then uh, Joel Silver brought on Stephen E. D'Souza, who I guess had worked on 48 Hours and some other stuff. Anyway, here's the cover of the Nothing Lasts Forever book. There's a building on fire. There's helicopters in the air. There's guys with guns, terrorists. So it's really interesting. I've actually never read the book. And the funny thing is that Die Hard 2 is also based on a book. I mean, I don't use it as a starting off point. So Stephen E. D'Souza and Jeb Stewart collaborated on the script, and uh, and they developed it. And they wanted to so that there's going to be construction equipment. That just sets up that there can be construction equipment around that can come in handy in the action sequences. Um, the movie also sets up this guy Ellis, who is this jerk who obviously likes Holly. He's high on coke. He thinks he's better than John. Um, and what's interesting about this movie that didn't I didn't get until, I mean, I'm constantly getting things about this movie, is that John is fighting terrorists, right? He's fighting Hans and Carl and all those guys, but there are also the movie's full of antagonists. So the movie's uh, and so John is constantly being put up against people who are trying to foils. He's constantly being put up against obstacles in the form of characters, but also, obstacles that are things. Um, and so, really, the only characters that are really on his side, main characters in the movie, are Al and Holly. I mean, even the two Johnsons are kind of antagonists in a way. So everybody thinks that they're better than John, that they know better than John, that they're going to win, and that they kind of underestimate him. And so that has us kind of root for him and root to see him not just win, but not be a loser, not be an idiot, which he kind of he's kind of hard on himself, even in the scene where he's talking to Holly, he can't help himself but like start an argument right after she says, "I missed you." He like they've been separated. He's coming to see her. She says, "I've missed you," and then he goes into dick to being a dick. And she leaves and then he bangs his head against the wall cuz he's just annoyed at himself. And Jeb Stewart said that I'm definitely going to need more eggnog. Jeb Stewart said that he didn't have an in into the character. He was just kind of hero guy. And then he had a fight with his wife one night and was driving on the freeway and almost got into a big accident and realized like, "Oh, what if this character is kind of separated from his wife and, you know, is trying to wants to apologize, isn't quite um able to do it and is regretful about that." And then this thing happens and he can't get back to her. All he wants to do is get back to her because he loves her, and that was really that's really important for the movie and for the character of John and for us. I mean, the thing that this one of the things this movie does so well is we're not only rooting for John, we're rooting for Hans in a way. Like Alan Rickman plays him so likably, and the way that he played him was totally unlike villains had been played in movies up until this time. And it's been copied, a lot since, the kind of calm, suave villain. Uh, and he makes him almost likable enough that you want to see him, that you want to kind of see them get away with it. But also the bad guys are so simple but distinguishable. There's Theo, who's the kind of fast talking, funny tech guy. There's Carl, who's the stone cold badass. Um, there's all these different guys. I'm probably forgetting a few, but there's all these different guys, and they're all really great. I mean, Carl is the one who stands out the most. Uh, I love this thing that he does with the where he rolls this like hockey puck thing, and I guess what does that do? It's just like, oh yeah, he just kind of shocks the security guard and then he shoots him. I think this is the first movie I saw that had like really brutal violence. Because I did not watch a lot of like I was 10 or 11. I watched Ghostbusters. I watched Back to the Future. I watched like fantasy movies and science fiction movies. That kind of what appealed to me back then. I didn't even really watch Predator that much. I remember at a birthday party, um, it was between Predator and Ghostbusters, and everybody picked Predator, and I just went and played with toys or something, because I just always wanted to watch Ghostbusters. We watched it at my birthday parties in my house. Um, so I also have Die Hard. I'm looking around. I'm looking at all my stuff. I also just want to show this. I have this Die Hard like a storybook. they made it into like a storybook style book, um, which is really cute. And maybe I'll read it to my kid. But see, it's also kind of funny because they also show Carl like shooting the security guard, and they show the splatter, the blood splatter. So I think it's kind of tongue in cheek. But this is pretty great. I'm really annoyed because I have a sweatshirt that says the "Now I have a machine gun, ho ho ho" that my friend Jay Bender got me, and I don't know where it is, and I'm really annoyed about it. Probably in a box somewhere, and I will probably find it sometime after this. But I wish I had it. I wish I was wearing it. What else do I have? I have I have these movies on all formats. So I have them on VHS. I have them on DVD. Oh, you know what? I have them on DVD. I have these like uh, special special editions that they came out with back in like 2000. You know, and they have all kinds of cool special features, commentaries, and this was back in like the height of DVD. I mean, this has this is like has a feature called the cutting room, re-edit and what? Re-edit and remix your favorite scenes. That's crazy. Newscast, interactive articles from American cinematographer. Yeah, there's all kinds of DVD ROM links. I wonder if those still work. So I have the Die Hard movies on DVD. I also have I think I just have Die Hard and Die Hard 2 on Blu-ray. And they basically have uh almost all the special features from the DVD. I don't think the Blu-ray has this whole editing thing. I think that was just for the DVD. I'm a big fan of Die Hard 2. Love Die Hard 2. Also Jay, who got me the hoodie, also got me Die Hard in 4K. So I have Die Hard in 4K. I have it on Blu-ray. I have it on DVD. I have it on VHS. I also have these this crazy Die Hard widescreen VHS series. So hold on, let me go grab that. Ugh. So I have this Die Hard trilogy. Um, so the movie is being played. I'm watching the movie and talking about it. I didn't think that I could actually play the movie on YouTube Live. I didn't know if that would be like a legal thing. So my idea was that you would be watching the movie at home while I'm watching it. Anyway, the terrorist just got there, and and now John is peeking through the door, uh, and he's got his gun, but he's barefoot, and you have this little like only in the movies kind of cheat where the terrorist gets distracted by the naked lady, and we're supposed to assume that during that time John has ran out the door and gone to the steps. But anyway, I have this widescreen VHS Die Hard trilogy that has these beautiful looking VHSs of the first three movies. You know, Die Hard, Live Free or Die Hard didn't come out until 2007, and Die Hard with a Vengeance came out in 1995. So that was a long gap of time. So by the time Live Free or Die Hard came out, we were long done with VHSs. But these are just so cool and so beautiful and well designed. And before I got into DVD, I watched Letterbox VHS because once I discovered what Letterbox really was, and that I was seeing the whole picture instead of missing out on the picture, because even back then I didn't know. right away what the letterbox was actually doing. It was giving me more picture, not taking picture away. Um, so I would watch the widescreen Die Hard VHS. So they just showed the shot of John uh, looking out the window and seeing the woman in her underwear across the street, which is really funny but makes no sense because Nakatomi Tower is not really close to any other buildings, and it's definitely not close enough that he would see another woman that close up, but it still works as a visual gag. It kind of works. And it happens just once, so you don't really ever think about it. The movie is John McTiernan is a has made some great movies, but he shoots in widescreen, and this movie is severely compromised by being in the 4:3 aspect ratio. Um, I mean, there's actually even a special feature. I don't know if it's on the DVD. I saw it on the digital. Oh, I also have it on iTunes and digital, where the editors are talking about the letterboxed versus the cropped, and they're just showing you how much of the frame gets lost. But when we watched it back then, we didn't know. We were just like watching the movie. And it's funny that we couldn't tell that we didn't know that we didn't think like, oh, I saw a movie on a screen that looks like this, and now I'm watching the movie on a screen that looks like this, and we didn't think where's the rest of the screen. We just thought, oh, that's how the movie was shot. Um, so Han's in the elevator with Takagi. He's kind of singing "Ode to Joy." Uh, According to the book, the script was very serious, and McTiernan wanted to introduce some fun and joy. And he was a big fan of Stanley Kubrick and A Clockwork Orange. So he wanted to add Ode to Joy into the movie. And it's in the score by Michael Kamen, and the characters are singing Ode to Joy. And so then somebody maybe Kamen or somebody was also a fan of Clockwork Orange and wanted to license Singing in the Rain. So they licensed both Singing in the Rain and Ode to Joy for Die Hard because they were such big fans of Kubrick, and it was kind of an homage to Kubrick and A Clockwork Orange. And I believe Theo hums Singing in the Rain. I never knew that before. Um, I'm just letting the old Instagrammers know that we're live and watching the movie. Hi guys. Uh, we're telling you hello. Hi. I'm watching Die Hard on YouTube. So if you go to my YouTube, to my bio, and click the YouTube link to go to my channel, come over to YouTube and watch Die Hard with me. We're at the scene where Hans is trying to negotiate with Takagi, and uh, what's there's this little thing that happens at the end of the scene after he shoots Takagi, where Theo hands Carl like $20, which is just a really funny little character bit Hey guys, come and join me on YouTube. The other thing about this scene, as with almost every scene in this movie, is it's character and plot. So we know that wants to. We now know that Hans wants to get into a vault, and that it's hard to get into, impossible to get into without these codes. And even Takagi is saying he doesn't have the codes. Mm. Uh, what? I don't know what that is. And so terrorists um, to get into this vault, and that sets up plot that is going to happen later in the movie. And Hans, has this plan. He even says after he kills Takagi, time to switch to Plan B. Hey guys, come and join me on YouTube. The actor who plays Takagi is so great. I mean, he's only in what, like 3 or 4 scenes, and you you never forget him. I mean, he's great, and every actor in this movie is just perfect for their role. Um, in the 80s, 88, I guess the movie was shot in 87. Chinese companies were taking over corporations. Uh, there was still concerns about Russia. And so they switched the company from the novel. It was another nationality. They changed it to China, and it just made it kind of feel more current to the time. Okay, so he just shot Takagi, and they had that great blood splatter against the window. Uh, the violence in this movie really is brutal, but it's not just brutal for for no reason. It's brutal to show what John is up against. And we need to feel at every moment like John is fucked. He is fucked. How is he going to get out of this situation? He just said to himself like, "Oh, Argyle, tell me you heard the shots." Argyle's downstairs like bumping music and he's on the phone. Like, John is fucked, and the movie does such a great job of, you know, he doesn't have a shirt, he doesn't have his shoes, he has his one pistol. There's all these terrorists, and they are carrying out their plan. Um, it's really so beautifully constructed. Hey guys, thanks for coming. Join me on YouTube, okay? I just wanted to jump on um, Instagram just for a minute, but I'm gonna jump off and head back to. Yes, I love Argyle. Anyway, come over to YouTube and uh, you know let's chat about Die Hard. Um, so there's one thing I never knew about this movie, which is that it never hit number one at the box office. All right, so hold on here. Let me find this. All right, hold on. Where is this? The movie also does this great thing where John talks to himself, and it sets us up right from the beginning when he says to himself, "California." Like, from then on, we know he's a guy who can kind of talk to himself in this uh, very easygoing way, so it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel weird or unnatural. The other thing about it that's really cool is where's this fucking that oh yeah, the supporting cast is just okay. We'll talk about the supporting cast in a minute. Okay, where's this shit? All right, well, whatever. I can't find it, but basically, the movie was never number one at the box office, but it played in theaters from July 20th until October 14th. It was in the top 10. It was in the top 10 from July 20th to October 14th. Now, obviously, this is 1988. Movies stayed in theaters uh, way longer than they do now. This is a totally different time. But but to think that it was in the top 10 for that amount of time, and the highest it got was number two at the box office. It just kind of kept going, and people kept seeing it. And I thought that that was just fascinating. The Die Hard movies were never they were blockbusters, but they never made like I don't think any Die Hard movie has made over $300 million. Maybe not even close. Um, okay, so we have the scene where the first terrorist to die is sent up because John pulled the fire alarm. And I love how McTiernan moves the camera. The camera is kind of constantly moving, but not in a showy way, in a really, really cool way. And he says in the book that people they weren't cutting on camera movements. There was like a rule that you had to wait until the camera stopped moving to make an edit. But he kind of changed that. And so there's a lot of times where the camera moves and then it cuts to another movement. When I forget his name, Tony, I don't remember. Uh, runs to the little blade, and you see the camera move over to the blade to the saw. Okay, so they're fighting now, and this fight scene is funny, but makes it's great, but it makes no sense because there's no reason for John to start fighting this guy other than that he's angry that there's terrorists. But what's so great about this movie that I didn't pick up on um, until after many many viewings is that every kill forwards the plot. So, you know, John Wick movies are good and all, but when he's just kind of like pop popping guys, it just kind of feels like okay, well, doesn't really matter who it is. Um, and in Die Hard, there's a certain number of terrorists, and everyone that dies, pretty much up until the end, forwards the plot in some way. So this guy, whose name I cannot remember, I'm gonna have to look it up on YouTube because it's gonna drive me crazy. Or on IMDb. Hold please. All right. Uh, maybe it's Tony. Uh, it's great because so John takes his gun, his bag, his cigarettes, and then he writes this "Now I have a machine gun, ho ho ho" on his hoodie and sends him down to the main floor. So he's like sending a message, basically letting the terrorists know that you can't fuck with John. And he does this little thing with the elevator, which I always wondered if you could do, where you just stick the rod up and like move a thing, and then you can just open the doors. He just makes it look so easy. Uh, and What's great is that John talks to himself basically up until he meets Al over the phone, and then he has Al to kind of talk to. But having him talk to himself is just such a great device. And what's great about this scene is that Hans is saying like, "Have no illusions. We're in charge." Like, and then all of a sudden, Tony comes down in the elevator like dead, and it's just the bad guy's first clue that they have to deal with something else other than that they didn't plan on. And I think they said that in the novel, the character says, "Now we have a machine gun." So he's trying to make the bad guys think that there's more, but they thought it would be more ballsy if John just said, "Now I have a machine gun." And it's great. John is constantly gathering information. The characters are gathering information. He's got this marker and he's like writing names on his hand. They're constantly giving John something to do other than just, he's a detective, right? He's a detective. So he's not just an action hero. He's trying to figure out what's going on and by with all this limited information that he has. Uh, and like I said, McTiernan does such a great job giving us a sense of the geography of the building with the elevator shafts, the different floors. The movie is not shot tight, and it's shot by someone who understands that for us to understand the geography um, of the building gives us a better sense of the action and what's happening. Okay, so I asked my friend Jay uh, if he had any Die Hard stories because Jay is the only one who's probably seen Die Hard that I know who's seen Die Hard more than me. So here's what he said. He said, "I've watched Die Hard 6 times in one day." He said that it was the first year it was out on VHS, probably 1989. He was 7 years old. His parents left him home when he was sick. He had a 3-liter bottle of cherry 7 Up and Die Hard. I, I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. It seems like a kind of a thing that parents would do uh, at that time, 89. Just, yeah, you're sick. Just stay home. Here you go. Watch this movie. Jay also, I think, watched First Blood so many times that he melted the VHS tape or the VHS tape got stuck in the VCR or something because he watched it so much. Um, Jay's a one of a kind dude. And okay, so John is on the roof. He's calling 911. You have this great line. No fucking shit, ladies. Does it sound like I'm ordering a pizza? So great. One of my favorite lines. One of my favorite lines. Uh, and so Hans thinks that he could be calling from the roof, so he sends a bunch of dudes up, Carl included. and they're about to attack. And so you think from this call, that because the terrorists interrupted John's call, we don't know if he got through to anybody, if they're actually going to send somebody over. And now he's getting shot at by more terrorists. And now we have this introduction to Al. So we have this simultaneous action of John being chased by terrorists on the roof, and this cutesy little intro to Al, who's buying Twinkies at 7-Eleven. And Reginald Vell Johnson is so great as Al. I wish that, he has like one scene cameo in Die Hard 2, but that for me is like I wish that they had figured out a way to bring his character back in some way. Um, they were so great together, and I think that was really missing. That relationship was missing for me in the sequels. He was fine with Samuel Jackson, but it wasn't the same. Uh, and after this, basically, I think he went on to do Family Matters, which was the TGIF sitcom that ran for 7 or 8 years. And that's probably what a lot of people know him from is Family Matters with Steve Urkel. So again, you have this beautiful shot on top of the helipad as you see the terrorists shooting at John. You see John running away, and then the camera pans over to Carl, who's just sneaking, ready, waiting to nail John, and he almost does. And Bruce Willis is so great at this desperation. He's like frantically trying to reload the gun, and he's trying to shoot the guys, and he just does this desperation so well. And you see him thinking. He's constantly thinking. He's constantly trying to figure out, how am I going to survive this? How am I going to get away from this situation? He's constantly, and you see him thinking. It's just it's just it really is one of Bruce Willis's best performance. Probably, when he dies, it's going to be the movie that is most associated with him. Um, I mean, I don't. Not that I'm saying I hope Bruce Willis dies or anything, because I love Bruce Willis. I actually walked by Bruce. Here's my Bruce Willis story. So I was at the Century City Mall. This was like 10 years ago or something, and in Los Angeles, and I saw Bruce Willis. He was there with his family. He had a ball cap on, and I walked past him, or he walked past me, and I said, "Hey, big fan," and he goes, "Thanks," and he just keeps walking. And that's it. That's my Bruce Willis story. It was great. He was very personable. Uh, I love how he's just kind of running around from floor to floor, and he goes to the floor where the naked pictures of the naked ladies are on the wall, and he hits them like we kind of register that he's been there before. Okay, this is the first really amazing action sequence in the movie. We've had shootouts and kind of hand to hand combat, but this sequence of him going down the elevator shaft still makes my hands sweat. It's just it's so crazy, and it feels so real. It feels like at any moment he could just die, and then that's the movie. The movie's over. And honestly, like how he's able to catch uh the wall. See, look, my hands are sweating already. It makes no sense how he's able to catch the wall and not like tear his fingers off. But we go with it. We go with it because the movie walks this like great line. Oh my god, look at his face. He is so terrified. He is so terrified, and we're so terrified. I would have loved to have seen this movie in the theaters. I mean, I might go see it, uh, this weekend during its re-release, but I would have loved to have seen it when it first came out because he's just like holding onto this strap that's attached to the gun that's like barely. Uh, oh man, look at that strap. The strap was loosening. I mean, and McTiernan does this great job. The movie isn't overshot. It's not over edited. The editor is this guy. There's two editors, John Link and Frank J. Uriatz. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. Uriatzi. Anyway, they just do a really masterful job. And I believe the movie was nominated for best editing. Let's double check that. I have my trusty awards app. Okay, so then it just fell, and then he just slid down and managed to catch on. It's fucking crazy. So Die Hard. Die Hard was nominated for film editing, sound effects editing, sound, which are now just one category, and visual effects. It didn't win any of the awards, but uh, it's pretty great that it was nominated for editing, uh, alongside Gorillas in the Mist, Mississippi Burning, Rain Man, and it lost to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which can't argue with that. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is amazing. So he just said it. One of his classic lines: "Come out to the coast. We'll get together, have a few laughs." Which is, at first I didn't know why it was funny when I saw it as a kid, and then I realized like, oh, that's something his wife said to him on the phone before he came. Uh, but the editor, so Frank J. Uh, Uriatzi, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, but he's edited. Let's see, he's edited RoboCop. I think he did RoboCop just before Die Hard, and yeah, he did The Hitcher. Okay, so here's probably broke through with Conan the Destroyer, then Red Sonja, The Hitcher, RoboCop, Die Hard, Roadhouse, Total Recall. He did three movies for Verhoeven. Uh, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Cliffhanger, Tombstone, Terminal Velocity, Cutthroat Island, Executive Decision, Conspiracy Theory, Lethal Weapon 4, and Deep Blue Sea was his last movie as an editor. I don't think he directed. Let's see, did he direct? No, he never directed. He was just an editor. I mean, a great editor. Great editor. I mean, you really can't fuck with his run from RoboCop, Die Hard, Roadhouse, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Cliffhanger, Tombstone. Like, that's a strong run. Uh, so this is this scene where Powell is driving up to the tower, and this is the only scene that didn't. I still don't quite. It feels like there was a shot missing because basically you just see this body drop uh, onto the car, and then this machine gun shooting out the window, but you don't actually see McClane shooting. And then he says, "Welcome to the party, pal." So for the longest time, I didn't know if it was the bad guys shooting or if it was John shooting. I mean, obviously it's John now, but anyway, it's coming up. We're not quite there yet. Apparently also the cinematographer was Jan de Bont. Um, the cinematographer was Jan de Bont, and Jan uh, also worked on Basic Instinct. I think Die Hard was his kind of breakthrough movie. He was a Dutch cinematographer. Um, He did Lethal Weapon 3, Basic Instinct, Hunt for Red October for McTiernan, and 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 he basically had to light the movie with all of the, in he basically had to put the lights in all of these fluorescent ceiling lights so that they could kind of move around, and he did it in such a way that uh, he was able to adjust the lights and um and that they could move around easily. Okay, so here's this other guy. So John he shoots one of the terrorists. Then the other guy gets on top of the table, and John's under the table. Looks like, oh no, how's he going to get out of here, right? And then these guys also further the plot because um, one of them goes out the window and lands on Powell's car. So it's not just random bad guys getting killed. Each one serves a function. Hi guys, come join me on YouTube. Click the link in my bio. Go to my YouTube channel. Get on the live, uh, and come join me. Okay. Great to see you here. Come join me on YouTube. I'm not quite sure when John's tank top changes from white to like brown, but never bothered me. Okay, all right. So now I'm looking. He looks down. He sees Powell is driving away. He looks back at one of the dead bodies. I guess we don't really need to see him like launch a dead body out the window. They probably saved time and money with having him launch a mannequin. But then you see this terrorist, just dead terrorist, fall. Reginald Vell Johnson's acting here is just so great. But yeah, you see the over the shoulder of the machine gun shooting the window, and then welcome to the party, pal. But you don't see John shooting the machine gun. That's always bothered me. All right, I'm doing my Die Hard watch along. Come over to YouTube, join me. I want to share it. And now we're introduced to Thornburg. So then Thornburg hears Powell on the radio, and he gets the clue that something wild is going on, and Thornburg becomes our, I guess you could say, like third antagonist. The movie also does this amazing kind of rug pull thing where at the beginning of the movie when Holly is on the phone uh, with the nanny. What would I do without you? What would I do without you? What's the name of the nanny? Paulina. And then she sees the family photo of John and of the family with John, and then she puts it face down, and 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 Hans takes over Holly's office, not knowing that the guy that Hans is now talking to is in the picture right behind him, and they save that reveal until almost the very end when things start to fall apart for Hans. So we're about to get into the most classic line from the movie. But what's great about it is like it's this really quiet scene between Hans and John. John is kind of creeping around. Hans is like, "Who are you?" He's trying to get information. John is trying not to give information. He's trying to get information from Hans. It's this like great dance. And the movie kind of introduces this whole cowboy theme, uh, where okay, here it is. Do you really think I have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy? Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker! Boom, great, incredible, incredible line. Feels it doesn't just feel like an action movie line. It feels like uh, so specific to the character of John. And he mentions that he was always partial to Roy Rogers, and then that sets up uh, this nickname of Roy that Powell, that he wants Powell to call him. Chris Pickens, I've not seen the movies that made us episode on Die Hard. You would think that I would have watched it before tonight, but I didn't. I was too busy reading. I was too busy reading. Okay, I was too busy reading this amazing book. Um, and his bag is missing. Yeah, so great. Carl says, and his bag is missing. Uh, so this guy who plays Theo is named Clarence Gilliard Jr. He was in Top Gun. He's the guy who rides with Maverick after Goose dies, and he's like, "We could have had him, man. We could have had him." And then Maverick like grabs him and he says, "I will, when I'm goddamn good and ready." Uh, and he's the one at the bar in Top Gun who tries to take over. You've lost that love and feeling. He's also in Karate Kid Part Two in the scene in the bar where they're trying to chop the ice. But I think what he's most known for is he was on like I don't know 230 episodes of Walker Texas Ranger. I think he was Walker's partner. He's so great in this movie as Theo, and I think he's the only terrorist that doesn't die. They don't kill Theo; they just punch him out. Argyle punches him out. Um, and who else? One of the terrorists is also played by this guy Wilhelm von Homburg, who plays Vigo in Ghostbusters 2. Uh, he I think is in the sequence where they're trying to bring the tank up the steps and he fires the rocket and they blow up the. Okay. All right, so this is his first conversation with Al, and the camera moves so beautifully and gracefully, and the camera is basically just following the characters, but it just does it in this really I don't know how to say it other than graceful way. It doesn't feel overly stylized. It just feels, and there's a lot of lens flares because of the film they used. And what's great is, as another kind of plot complication, is that John gets the walkie-talkie from the terrorist, so he's communicating with Al on the walkie-talkie, but the terrorist can also hear what he's saying. And I don't know if John knows that the terrorist can hear what he's saying. And now here's another antagonist, Dwayne T. Robinson, played by Paul Gleason, who was so great in The Breakfast Club. So now, not only is Dwayne an antagonist for John, but he's an antagonist for Al. And so you have all these great character interactions and obstacles going on, not just for John, but now for Al as well. The character of Dwayne is, to me, the weakest character in the movie. But it's kind of an '80s trope that like the police captain is a jerk off, so it's okay. But I remember when Siskel and Ebert reviewed the movie, I think Ebert gave it thumbs down, um, and I think that was one of his complaints. Uh, I wonder if Ebert ever kind of changed his mind or grew to like the movie more. Uh, but now, see, here's a new character dynamic. Holly is coming to Hans and showing him that he doesn't intimidate her, where she's asking for the couch for the pregnant woman. But it's also important for the rest of the movie. We're basically in like the midpoint of the movie, and it's important that Holly and Hans come face to face because that dynamic is going to evolve. Oh, and that was just a great moment. Holly's eyes shifted to the photo that was face down, and Hans registers like something, but he doesn't know what. And even that is going to pay off later. Like, so fucking good. It's so good, you guys. You don't understand. I mean, even a movie that's a great, fun action movie like, say, Deadpool, doesn't have nearly the level of sophistication in the writing that Die Hard does. And that just has a bunch of random bad guys getting killed. It's funny. Love Ryan. Love the character. Love what he did. I actually think the Deadpool 2 is a better made movie than the first one, even though the first one is the more iconic of the two. I'm interested to see what he's going to do with Deadpool 3. Um, but I guess what's really interesting about this movie, I'm kind of watching this, is that now we're seeing Thornburg is doing the newscast. Argyle finds out. So it's like the characters are now, there's so much, the characters are now influencing each other in all these kind of different, interesting ways. So it's not just good guy, bad guys. It's good guy, cop, wife, bad guys, police captain, uh, news reporter, cokehead coworker. And Al is on John's side, even though he doesn't even really know what's going on. He doesn't know John. Um, you know, and even this conversation, they're kind of testy with each other. Al is like, if you are who you say you are, then you'll know when to back off. Al's trying to do his job on the ground and help John on in the building. It's just really wonderful. So, as you know, this was an action movie unlike, or if you don't know, this was an action movie unlike any other action movie at the time, basically for a few reasons. One is that John was this regular guy. He wasn't a super hero like Rambo or the Schwarzenegger characters. of the time. He was this kind of everyman. And the other is that the action is basically confined to this building. And so in the years since Die Hard, uh, there became this genre of action movies that were known as like Die Hard in a, Die Hard on a, Die Hard on a plane, Die Hard on a bus, uh, Die Hard in the Air Force One, Under Siege. The notable ones are Under Siege, I think, Passenger 57, Speed, and Air Force One. What other Die Hard copycats do you guys know of? Obvious big ones. I know there were a bunch of other ones on planes. Executive Decision is kind of on a plane. Turbulence, I think. Uh, but and then Speed 2 kind of killed it a little bit, where it was on this cruise ship that was not speedy. Speed 2 is ridiculous, but uh, Speed is one of my absolutely all-time favorite action movies. It is just a glorious movie that I saw, I think, 3 times in the theater in 1994 when it came out. I just one of my favorite movies. Okay, so now I think SWAT is gonna try and go in, and the terrorists are lined up, and you have the Asian dude who spots the candy bar, and then takes a bite of the candy bar, which is another great little touch that all these little touches, they're not necessary, but they add humanity to the movie, and they add personality and life to the movie. Chris Pickens, what about Cliffhanger? Oh, Cliffhanger, yeah, that's like Die Hard on a Mountain. Yeah, yeah. Uh, and even Die Hard 2, kind of Die Hard at an airport. It expanded what the Die Hard thing was, but for me, uh, it does it like just enough. For me, like the whole like expanding it to New York is like a little too much. And then Die Hard, Live Free or Die Hard is like Washington, and then Good Day to Die Hard is Russia. Like it gets to be it. It just they just those to me those movies just become like regular action movies. Um, Vince Smith says went to an opening midnight showing with roomies in college just because we were all moonlighting fans, but thinking really Willis is an action hero. Yes, not disappointed. He was the best of himself as an everyman and as an action hero. I always tell people it was like all of us in the theater were on the same roller coaster. That's great, Vince. That's a great story. Literally whooping and throwing our hands in the air, having an awesome time. I wish I could have been there, man. I was too young. I'm sure that was a great experience. And the genre itself kind of wore itself out, and even Bruce Willis kind of did the action thing too much. But Bruce Willis is a great dramatic actor. He's been great in Pulp Fiction. He was great in Moonrise Kingdom. He was great in Looper. Great in one of my favorite movies called Nobody's Fool with Paul Newman and Melanie Griffith. He's uncredited in the movie. Like if you look at the poster, his name is not above the title. I guess they didn't want people to think it was Bruce Willis movie, but he's so understated and so great. Um, and he's really fun in Armageddon, which I just rewatched last summer, which is aged um, really well. Actually, Armageddon is ridiculous, has always been ridiculous, but great. It's too bad that Bruce Willis kind of ended up just doing these straight to video, I guess you could call them, or VOD movies where he was paid $2 million for 1 day's work or whatever. They put him on the video box or the poster and they put him above the title, but he just kind of phones it in. But he's still one of my favorite movie stars. Okay, so now they're getting the rocket launcher and they're about to fucking pummel this uh, RV, as Theo calls it. And what's so funny is they're racing this RV. They go up on the steps and then they just get stuck. Like, what is their plan? What is their plan? Were they attempting to like run the RV up the stairs and into the building? Is that what they were thinking? I don't know. That just seems like there's some flaws in your plan there, Dwayne. But this is a great moment because they hit the tank with the rockets, and then John is like, "Fuck you guys," and he takes the C4 that he got from one of the terrorist bags, and he sends another message. Basically, he's just doing whatever he can to try to fuck with these terrorists' heads. And he sends this C4 on a chair down the elevator shaft. So great. And all these little moments, all these little lines, John saying fuck it when he puts the C4. I don't know what he's doing. What is he doing there? Can somebody tell me what John is doing with the C4? I've never known what he's putting these little pins. I don't know. Take this under advisement, jerkweed is another great line. Geronimo motherfucker. I can't even tell you how many lines from this movie I've just said in everyday conversation, mostly with Jay. Oh yeah, and then the building blows up. And what's so great about this movie is you literally can't tell what's a model and what's real. The movie does such a great job of blending the miniatures with the live action, with the sets, with the practical locations. And I think what I love about this movie that I think other action movies kind of fall flat in is that the terrorists are not dumb. They're not idiots. They're not incompetent. They're just getting beaten. Eat your heart out, Channel 5. That's another great line. Oh, so that's Mary Ellen Trainor as the newscaster. She was married to Robert Zemeckis. She was in all the Lethal Weapon movies. Uh, she's great. She was kind of like that woman that would just kind of show up in every '80s movie, every '80s action movie. Um, so if you're wondering how I would rank the Die Hard movies, I would rank them basically in order of release. I would Die Hard is the ultimate, the classic. To me, Die Hard 2 is just under. It is brutally violent, beautifully plotted, great supporting characters. Bruce Willis is great. The action's great. I love everything about it. Glass? Who gives a shit about Glass? Oh, here's another great line coming up. Charge of jack shit. Here it is. I'm not the one who just got bucked on national TV. and then and then Argyle's reaction is so funny. Oh god. It's really one of the most quotable movies ever. You know, I I could tell I know Back to the Future and Ghostbusters line for line. Um, but but Die Hard is so fucking quotable and so funny. All right, and now here we go. Here's Ellis. He's about to make something happen. All right, I'm just getting back on Instagram to let people know that to come over to the YouTube channel. Vince, thanks for joining. I hope you're enjoying this. I wish I could show the movie at the same time, And maybe after this, I'll figure out a way to kind of play some clips or something, um, because it's great to kind of see the movie as I'm commenting on it. Hey guys, if you're just joining, it's great to see you. Thank you, bro. Thank you, Keanu. Um, come over to YouTube. I'm doing a Die Hard watch along. Ellis is just about to try to negotiate with Hans. He's gonna have a Diet Coke and get his head blown off. I mean, this is good stuff. So come on over. The link for my YouTube channel is in my bio. It's also in my stories. Uh, come on down. I got a little bit of eggnog left in my National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation uh, glass. Mm, I definitely need more of that. And Art Bachner, who plays Ellis, is great. He also plays a kind of jerk in Mr. Destiny with James Belushi, and he became a director. He directed this movie PCU, which is kind of a cult classic from the '90s with Jeremy Piven, uh, and I forget what else he's done, but he's great. He's so great in this movie, and it's a kind of a measure of how great this movie is that all of these supporting actors' performances are so indelible. You know, not only do I think of John McClane, uh, not only do I associate John McClane with Bruce Willis, but I associate Al with Reginald Vell Johnson and Ellis with Art Bachner and Holly with Bonnie Bedelia, and of course Hans with Alan Rickman. Hey guys, thanks for joining. Come over to YouTube. That's where we are. That's where we're doing this thing. I'm doing a watch along, commenting on the movie. There haven't been very many dull spots. You made it, Keanu. You're here. uh, thanks for joining, guys. Okay, Instagrammers, come over to YouTube. See you there. And it's just another obstacle. This Ellis thing. It's just another obstacle for John because he's really put in a really tough spot now because he knows Ellis is screwed. There's nothing he can do. He really can't give himself up. We know Ellis is a fucking idiot. It's not Diet Coke, it's regular Coke, of course. Um, but it's just like another way that the movie keeps testing John. The movie keeps testing John to see what he's made of. And it does it in what feels like a really um, I don't know what the word is, a really natural way, a really authentic way. Um, and what's great is that I never even noticed is that Ellis is in the light and John is in shadow in this scene. And you really feel it. You really feel that John is like kind of in a dark place. Like he is in a dark place. There's nothing that he can do. John, John, say that to Joy all the time. Yes, yes. Rickman's Hans is one of the best movie villains of all time. Absolutely. Ugh. and now you just hear the gunshot. You see Hans pick up the gun, just like he did with Takagi, but now you just hear the gunshot through the walkie-talkie. We don't need to see Ellis getting his head blown off. We've already seen it with Takagi. The movie doesn't need to keep repeating itself with its violence, and having it be played through the walkie-talkie just has it feel more just brutal and impactful for John. And then you got a little commentary on the scene from Dwayne and Al. Oh, so I was ranking the movies. So Die Hard number one, two number two, three three. I think Die Hard 3 is like Die Hard with a Vengeance is like half a good movie, half a great movie. The first hour is great. The second hour is just good. I'm not a fan of Jeremy Irons' uh, stuttering, but I do like that McTiernan returned for the third one. I think that the racial dynamics between John and Zeus are kind of forced and lame. Um, but it's fun. It's kind of a little bit more handheld, run and gun style of them running through New York, trying to solve all these riddles. It's fun, and then around the midpoint, it kind of slows down. Um, but it's okay. The thing about Die Hard with a Vengeance is the whole it suffers from not having Holly around. Like she's just a voice on the phone. And the franchise as a whole suffers from not having Holly come back in some way. I don't know why. Not like she has to be in danger again. Um, I don't know. It just does. It just seemed missing. The romantic angle felt missing for me of the third one. The third one just feels like a action comedy, and that's the thing. Like the Die Hard movies, kind of like the Lethal Weapon movies. Like Lethal Weapon one, fucking brilliant. Two, amazing. Two has great action, but also great character development. It's serious, it's brutal. And then three is like there's some good scenes, but there's also some really pointless scenes, some kind of lame action, more comedy, and then four just kind of becomes just action comedy where the action sequences and stunts are just insane and over the top, and Leo is in the movie for no reason, and a lot of it feels kind of tossed off and improvised. But Jet Li is good in the fourth one, I think, and uh, I think the cinematographer, Uriatsi, edited the fourth one. But I really only watched the first two, and also the villain in three is terrible. Jet Li is, like I said, he's great, but Die Hard is the same. Hostage, terrorist, terrorist, hostage. Uh, a study in duality. Um, uh, um, but I think Live Free or Die Hard is like a distant fourth. Uh, it it's fine as an action movie, but it's very Len Weissman-y. The action scenes feel very like overly kind of choreographed and too stylized. It just doesn't feel like Die Hard. It feels like Bruce Willis in another kind of action movie. It doesn't feel like John McClane. It's one thing to jump off of a helicopter onto the wing of an airplane. It's another thing entirely to jump off of a jet onto a freeway while the jet explodes behind you, and it just it's well done, but too ridiculous. Uh, and Good Day to Die Hard is just terrible. It's basically terrible in every conceivable way. I guess you could say maybe the camera work is fun or the editing is fun, but the, it it's not John McClane at all. He keeps saying I'm on vacation. Why? Why does he say I'm on vacation? He's not on vacation. He's there to find his son. The whole thing sucks. But the trailers for A Good Day to Die Hard were pretty good. They did an ode to joy thing. Uh, so okay. So now we have Hans. Yeah, I'm with you there, Vince. Uh, by the third, you were over it. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, I still think of him as John McClane in Die Hard 2. Um, and they comment on how can the same shit happen to the same guy twice. They just do a good job of kind of copying elements from the first movie, but also building on elements from the first movie. Okay, so now we're at the scene where John runs into Hans, and Hans is putting on this terrible fake American accent, which I'm pretty sure John recognizes. I think he's just kind of playing along because he's already talked to Hans over the walkie-talkie a few times, so there's no way that he doesn't recognize that voice. But here's the thing I've never understood. So maybe Vince, maybe you can. Uh, oh, okay. Hold on. Okay, okay. So now we have the two Johnsons. Oh my God, this movie's so fucking good. We got the two Johnsons coming in, and now the funny thing is that the Johnsons are kind of antagonists to Dwayne and Al. And I was in junior high. Dickhead is one of my favorite lines in a movie. Um, okay, so now John has two cigarettes, and if you notice in this scene with Hans, all of a sudden McTiernan is tilting the camera. He hasn't done that at all in the rest of the movie that I remember, but these scenes are very much at these like kind of tilted Dutch angles, as if to tell us like something is really off here. And it's not this like thing that Branagh is doing in all of his movies where he just tilts the camera for no fucking reason. Like in Thor, it's really purposeful, and the lighting is kind of moody and blue, and it just feels the scene feels completely different from any other scene in the movie. And you also need them okay, alright, so here's my question. So he says his name is Bill Clay, but I feels like he's just making that name up out of nowhere, but then McClane looks at the directory and sees W. Clay. So, does that ho how is that like a coincidence? Am I missing something? Somebody please tell me. What's the deal with Bill Clay? Vince, you probably know. Yeah, William Clay, Bill Clay. I know. So does Hans know that there's a Bill Clay in the building? If so, how? How, Jay? How does he know that there's a Bill Clay in the building? We haven't met. He saw the oh, well, we haven't met any other okay, so now the camera's really tilted, and it keeps tilting and tilting. Okay. Well, well, well. What's also great about this scene is Hans is desperate. He's got this, he's playing it cool, but he's desperate to get his detonators because otherwise his plan is gonna be fucked. I still don't get the Bill Clay thing, Jay. He saw the directory. I mean, wouldn't it make more sense that there would be a character named Bill Clay that Hans would have killed? Okay. All right. Okay, so now terrorists show up, shoot the glass. This is the shoot the glass scene, which, if you can believe it, ups the stakes even more. Oh, this is where he shoots the guy's kneecaps. Oh god, so fucking gross. So great. Um so this ups the stakes even more than they've already been up. The movie keeps kind of upping the ante with this whole shoot the glass thing because they know John is barefoot and he's going to get seriously fucked if he has to step on the glass. And so now you have this thing and it just and then that causes the scene that we get to, which is maybe the best scene in the movie, where John's picking glass out of his foot and he's talking to Al and he feels kind of at his lowest. Well, you can tell my VHS is old because certain sound effects are like, I don't know why the oh, you know why? Because I'm not hearing all the sound. Yeah, whatever. I know they're firing a machine gun. I don't need to hear the sound. So then the camera does this great job. It's of McTiernan does this great job of illustrating exactly why they're shooting the glass and what it means to John. John is standing there. He looks down. the camera the camera pans down. You see John's bare feet, and uh, you see all this glass on the floor. So now they got their detonators, but Carl doesn't have his man. Carl is getting more and more uh, upset. I wish I had. I do have more eggnog. I'm gonna go get more eggnog. Got my eggnog, courtesy of Trader Joe's. Oh, I need to say something about the score, but there's this great line from Holly. Only John can drive someone this crazy. I probably should have shaken this, but that's okay. And the movie just knows when to keep its sense of humor. Okay, so now you got John. He's just bleeding out of his feet are just totally bleeding and fucked up. This is good eggnog. All things being equal, I'd rather be in Philadelphia. I mean, we feel his pain pulling that glass out of his feet. What's WC feel? Oh, W.C. Fields said, "All things being equal, I'd rather be in Philadelphia." Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, thanks, Vince. Learn something new every day. Oh, and then so in this scene, we learn uh we learn Powell's backstory. I shot a kid. So he's not just um John's buddy. He has his own story, and it's given just we're given just enough information and just enough um emotion from Al. And it's again setting something up that's going to pay off later. And maybe, it's the way it pays off is a little goofy, but it's still great. And Vel Johnson is so great in this scene. You feel his sadness and how it's still really haunting him. All right, so now Al is telling John that the feds have taken over, and now we're basically getting into Hans says that this is all part of his plan. That they're going to cut that the feds are going to cut the circuits, which is going to trigger the vault to be opened, and they're going to get their money. And now you got Rick Dukeman. Rick Dukeman from he's Rick Dukeman is the city worker who calls the guy to shut down the power. Rick Dukeman was in The Burbs with Tom Hanks. He's so great in that movie. Uh, just like a one scene, and The Burbs came out before Die Hard, but Dukeman has this one scene part. Robert Davi is great as one of the Agent Johnsons. He has such a memorable face, and what's so great is that like even these guys are the antagonists for like there's always somebody's always antagonizing someone else in some way. Either that or we're getting these, small character scenes. So at the very end of this scene, John has this realization, Hans, why were you on the roof? And that kind of triggers this idea that he has to go to the roof and figure out what's on the roof. Okay, so the power just got shut off, triggering the vault to be opened. And now you have Ode to Joy is playing, the vault is opening, the lights are red, and Theo says Merry Christmas. I mean, the movie does this great job of walking this line between like brutal action, brutal violence, really serious stuff with this fun. And it keeps being fun. It's just I mean, even Die Hard 2 feels like really heavy at times. Uh but all right, are we getting into the to one of my favorite lines? Yeah, here we go. Robert Davi makes a call. It's Agent Johnson. No, the other one. No, the other one is glorious. There's no reason for him to say that. It's just funny. It's just a funny. It's line. It's almost like something you would see in like a Naked Gun movie or a spoof. No, the other one. Because what is the person on the other end of the line gonna say? Like the black one? The you know? It's just great. So now we're basically in the third act of the movie, and the movie, the the script is just escalating the stakes, the tension, the obstacles. John, sorry, gives this message to Al to give to Holly. And this is really the emotional crux of the movie right here. This is what John should have said to Holly when they met up in the at, at the beginning of the movie. But it took him going through. Yeah, I agree, Jay. It took him kind of going through all of this horribleness to realize, what a jerk he's been. And that's kind of why the whole divorce bullshit in Die Hard with a Vengeance, like, it bums me out because it just feels like a plot contrivance because they couldn't get Bonnie Bedelia or something. I don't know, because the first movie is about him like winning her back, and the second movie is about just him getting back to her. So like, why not have her be a supportive character in the third one? Whatever. I feel like it was a missed opportunity. Or have her come back for the fourth one in some way. I don't know. Oh yeah, so now is where he says something about the roof. The fuck up were you doing upstairs, Hans? And his whole thing just changes. He goes from giving this message about Holly uh to having this realization about the roof. And now the next scene is Thornburg basically busting in on Paulina and fucking threatening to, turn her in as an illegal immigrant. Just a dick. William Atherton is just a glorious dick in Ghostbusters and Die Hard and Die Hard 2. I mean, the best. Just one of the all-time best movie dicks. And now McClane is really in bad shape. He's lost his shirt. He's got blood all over him. He can barely walk. And here he pulls himself up and fucking dynamite everywhere. Oh, and then this is where he fights Carl, right? Yep. Now, again, why Carl doesn't just shoot him doesn't make any logical sense. Carl has been wanting this guy's head on a fucking stick the whole movie. He gets him, and instead of just killing him, he engages in some stupid, bad guy stuff. And then John hits the gun away, and they have this fight scene. Now, as fight scenes go, it's awesome. I don't mean to take anything away from this fight scene. It's great. It's great. The fight scenes in this movie feel really sloppy and messy and not overly choreographed. Uh, they don't feel rehearsed. And those are my favorite kinds of fight scenes, especially uh, hand-to-hand combat scenes, when it feels like every punch and every chop is getting blocked, uh, then it's just too much. Okay, here's this great moment. These dolly push-ins on Hans, dolly push-in on Holly. Hans sees the newscast. Holly sees her daughter on the TV. Hans puts two and two together. He lifts up the photo and he sees that Holly and John are married. Oh my God, the camera work and the lighting and the score, everything comes together so beautifully in this scene. So beautifully in this scene. And this is also where Hans starts to kind of lose it a bit. Hans goes from like suave, got it all under control to like, you know, just a kind of trying to take matters into his own hands. The thing I've always loved about Bruce Willis's stunt double is he's clearly skinnier than Bruce, and you could kind of always he's kind of got more hair, and you can always spot him uh, in the fight scenes. But I don't mind. I don't mind. The Johnsons and the helicopters. The helicopters are like flying through L.A. I think they had to get some kind of permits. There's probably something in the book about that to fly the helicopter so low around the power lines and the street lamps. But it's so cool. I mean, this movie looks so real. Compare it to like, oh, you want to talk about Die Hard knockoffs? White House Down, Die Hard in the White House. Yeah, full bad guy. Exactly. Yeah, that's what that Jay said. Hans becomes full bad guy, and that's what he becomes. Uh, compare it to a movie like White House Down, which C Tates is fun. Jamie Foxx is good, but the movie is just like CGI city. The characters, the CGI, the helicopters, everything feels fake and CGI and green screen. And compared to this movie where everything feels real, it feels really real. It really feels like it's happening in a real environment, and you just can't beat that. You cannot, no matter how developed CGI gets. For me, it doesn't beat um, real sets, real locations. Even miniatures look have more of a texture and look more real than CGI. Oh, this is so good. This is finally where you see Hans sweat. Where Holly is like, "You're nothing but a common thief," and he's like, "I'm an exceptional thief." And you see him finally kind of sweating, like the walls are closing in on Hans. Oh, this fight between John and Carl is so brutal and badass. And John grabs the chains and he chokes Carl, and that's the end of that. Or so we think, you know. And uh so apparently I read in the book that Joel Silver said to oh yeah, here's I was in junior high, dickhead. So great. The movie 1987, 1988, they're not far away from Vietnam. So uh yeehaw, just like in Vietnam, slick. You know, that was a thing that somebody could why is it so dark? That somebody might have said back then, because Vietnam was still kind of on the mind. What was I just gonna say? Oh yeah, even John is just fucking crazy right now. He's shooting. He's on the roof. Oh yeah, so Joel Silver said, "I love the script, but the building doesn't blow up." and he said that to the writer, to Jeb Stewart, like the building has to blow up. And so Jeb Stewart had to kind of rewrite the script, or Stephen E. D'Souza had to rewrite so that the building blows up. And he's like, "How is the building going to blow up?" Oh yeah, Jeb Stewart was saying, "If the building blows up, it's like John has failed." And he's like, "I don't care how you have to make it happen, but you have to make it happen. You have to get the building to blow up." And in the movie, it seems like the the climax of everything is coming to a head. But now so you have John, he's trying to get the terrorists off the roof. He gets the fire hose, and then he says, "What the fuck are you doing?" Yeah. And I mean, this is for me kind of the best part of the movie. Not just because it's like the most iconic action sequence, but because the editing is fucking amazing. He Hans grabs the detonator. We see the helicopter is close to the building. John is getting up on the edge. Everything the Johnson is aiming the rifle. The movie does such a great job of like extending, and then boom, Hans blows the roof. It impacts the guys in the helicopter. We see the reaction from the people on the ground. John is flying off the building, hitting the glass. The the you see the fire hose wheel on top, and the editor does this great job of extending the explosion so much beyond what actually would normally. They basically pause the building exploding for John to almost be dragged off the edge of the building by this fire hose, and then it just kind of keeps cutting back to the building exploding. You see the people running down the stairs, and the building is still exploding. Now John is in the fountain. You see the helicopter that explodes, and then John has to dive into the water. I mean, this building is getting destroyed. That whole sequence is incredible. Now John is wet. I mean, he's an animal. He's been reduced to an animal. I love it when the elevator goes ding and then it just blows up. And the reason it's awesome is because we care about John. We care about what happens to John and to Holly and to Argyle and to Al. Okay, so then here's this. They say it's like a mistake in the movie that Theo is able to drive the ambulance out of the truck when in the beginning we saw the bad guys walk out of the truck and there was no ambulance there. At this point in the movie, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Now John is seen. He has two bullets. What's he gonna do? And there's that great look on his face. Shit. He sees the tape, the Santa tape, and the editor and McTiernan, they get enough coverage of the tape that he knows that the editor is going to do this like pop, pop, pop into the tape so that it's really emphasizing that the tape is going to play a part, is important, right? We don't know how it's important, but we'll see why it's important. Argyle, now he becomes an action hero. He slams the limo into the truck. He fucking punches Theo out, and he's really proud of himself. It's so fun. The movie is like really moving fast. And now here we are, and John is entirely in silhouette. There's sparks. It's like it's kind of like the Western motif is just, Holly sees him for the first time since they left the room. She's just freaking out because he looks so fucking beat down. And there's two bad guys left. There's the guy who was the receptionist, and Hans. And it's like, how is John gonna get out of this? He has two bullets. He saw the tape, but what's the tape gonna do? So he's gonna rely on basically his wits to get through this. Oh god, he gives up the gun. Holly's like, "No, what are you doing? No." And it's like kind of like all part of his plan, you know? I mean, again, they could have shot him at any point. And then the movie brings back this yippee ki motherfucker, but then John gets them to laugh at the absurdity of it all. I guess the movie does a great job. And then the reveal of the gun is taped to his back. Holly is like, "What is he doing? What is he up to?" And boom, headshot, blows on the gun. Happy trails, Hans. But then it's not over yet because Hans falls out the window and he's holding on to the watch that got introduced at the beginning of the movie. That Ellis, they pitched in and bought her a watch, and now he might. And so, if you don't know about this whole Alan Rickman thing, he was hanging on to like a thing, and there was a green screen behind him, and they said they were going to count to three, and then they were going to let him go, and they counted one, two, and they let him go on two. So that's why the reaction on Rickman's face is genuine shock. And then you have this great stuntman who's just falling. He must be falling on a wire, and the wire is hidden by the lines of the building. They did such a great job with that. And then you have the reunion between John and Holly. They're kissing, and the joke about LA is that it doesn't snow in LA. So they have all these papers from the building just flying down as if it's snowing, and seeing it now in 2023, there's a little bit of unfortunate 9/11, imagery, but the movie's from 1988, so that's just what happens. So now you think the movie's over, right? But here you got Thornburg, who's like racing to the scene to try to get a scoop. Meanwhile, Holly and John are kind of walking out. Why they're not like immediately taken to ambulances makes no realistic sense, but it doesn't matter because we're just so with them. We're happy it's over. And then he spots Powell. The movie doesn't waste any time. He spots Powell. They have this beautiful, like, bromantic look between them. Again, we're kind of dollying in, and he introduces his wife to Powell. Oh God, the way they light uh, Powell just makes him look so great. Like I want to be friends with Al Powell, And they have this laugh and this hug. It's just so great. They recognize each other. They love each other. So apparently, okay, I'll talk about the score after. So we have this wife moment, and then Carl. Oh yeah, okay, right. Oh, so then there's Dwayne, and then Carl, right? And again, we get a payoff to a setup. Carl's not dead. Oh my God, what's gonna happen? Oh no, he's gonna shoot everybody. And then the least likely person to kill him kills him. And who is it? Al Powell, the guy who shot a kid, has this past, hasn't drawn his gun, steps up and has this great hero moment. And the score is from Aliens, which I'll talk about in a moment. Crowd goes nuts again. And then the crowd goes nuts again when Holly punches Thornburg. Like, it doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop until it's over. Argyle busts through the garage. You have this great last line. If this is your idea of Christmas, I got to be here for New Year's. Just like icing the cherry on top, you know. Oh, it's also great the way that they cover the punch through the news camera. The Holly punching Thornburg through the news camera instead of. Um, did you get that? If this is your idea of Christmas, I got to be here for New Year's. The two lovers are silhouetted. They kiss, and camera pulls back. Let it snow. Let it snow. And then you have this perfect end song. So I was reading in the book that I guess Michael Kamen, who's the composer, composed this whole end cue. And like a week before the movie was scheduled to be done, he delivered this cue and the editor cut it in. And he was like, this isn't right. And so they had to go in at the last minute, really, last time. And well, that's funny. I've never noticed that before. I just saw that one of the extras, one of the not extras, one of the people in the company was Rebecca Broussard. I think she's the woman who screams when what's his name Tony comes down in the elevator. Rebecca Broussard dated Jack Nicholson for years. Anyway, so Michael Kamen delivered this score cue, and they didn't like it. So they kind of they stopped it at some point, and then they used the temp cues that Uriatsi had cut in, and one of them was from Aliens. So they had to uh, uh, at the 11th hour somehow the music department had to get the rights to use this cue from Aliens, which is from another composer, James Horner, but it's from the same studio. So I guess he had used temp score from Cocoon and Aliens and other Fox movies. And so that's maybe how they got away with it. And then they decided to go out on Let It Snow. Uh, and apparently Kamen was kind of pissed at first, but he got over it. And I believe Kamen did the score for. Oh, you know what? I have the scores. Uh, Kamen did the score for Die Hard 2 as well. So I have this special edition Die Hard score, which is 2 discs. And I also have the original Die Hard 2 score. And then I have this deluxe edition Die Hard 2 score. And I'll do a Die Hard 2 watch along. I love that fucking movie. and could talk about it for a while as well. But so Kamen, so Michael Kamen, who did the scores for the Lethal Weapon movies and the Die Hard movies. I mean, you just cannot understate. You cannot understate what amazing work Michael Kamen did on these movies, and especially on Die Hard. Weaving in sleigh bells, weaving in Ode to Joy, uh, Winter Wonderland, all of these different Christmas songs, and the score is alive. Like it's alive. It's really characterizing the villains and characterizing John and Holly, and there's a romantic element to it. It's not just like dun 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 action score. It's it's just really beautiful, and in that way, it kind of reminds me of what John Williams does, um, which is he creates themes, different themes for the characters, uh, and for uh, and so the score feels very much alive. Anyway, the end credits are about to be over. Uh, this has been so great. I don't even know if anybody's still watching. There's 3 people watching. Well, I've had a blast. So thank you for showing up. Thanks for being here. It's been really great talking about this movie. I'm impressed with myself. I was able to talk about this movie for the entire run of the movie, and so I'm looking forward to doing another watch along. And thanks, Vince. Thanks for being here, man. Uh, this was great. So if you're, I got to say this: if you're not subscribing, please subscribe. Watch my videos. I'm gonna start adding more videos in the new year. Um, uh, that are movie and VHS related. Some I'm just gonna be kind of telling my stories. Some I'm gonna show off my. Uh, you want to do a Die Hard 2 watch along right now? Just you and me, Jay. You and me. We'll do it right now. And now that we've started doing this, I can think of like so many movies that I would just love to do this kind of thing with. Another one of my favorite. Oh, so let's talk about this. So we're still going. The movie is over. But so I can't believe I didn't even talk about this. So is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Absolutely. Absolutely, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It's got Christmas music. It takes place at Christmas. He goes to a Christmas party. Uh, it's a Christmas movie. Is it a violent Christmas movie? Sure. It's not a Christmas movie the way A Christmas Story is, or uh, Home Alone or Christmas Vacation, but it is absolutely a Christmas movie, and it's not just that the Christmas stuff is on the surface. It's not just there's like Christmas music in the score, but it actually Christmas. Excuse me, it's the eggnog. It's not a traditional Christmas movie, sure, but it leaves you with this uplifted feeling. Yeah, Home Alone 2 is way more violent than Die Hard. Are you kidding me? Fucking people get electrocuted and all kinds of fucked up. Um, oh, haha, violent. Yeah, I actually hate Home Alone 2. Um, Home Alone 1 is one of my staples. Even though there's things about it that bug the shit out of me now that I've seen it 100 times. But I never get sick of Die Hard. I never get sick of Die Hard. Uh, it's just perfect in its construction. It's a movie that kind of came together in all the right ways, in ways that it totally could have not come together, could have failed. And it's and I don't even know if people recognized that at the time. They probably just thought, "Oh, it's another action movie. It's well done. Bruce Willis is funny. Good for him. Spawned a sequel." But it really is, I think, one of the best movies ever made. Uh, if you want to like minimize it a little bit, you could say it's one of the best action movies ever made. Maybe the best action movie ever made, up there with Speed and Terminator 2, and um, I don't know. I don't know if you want to count French Connection as an action movie or Point Break. Point Break. Um, that gets into a whole other conversation. Um, but yes, Die Hard is a classic Christmas movie, and thanks for being here. This has been great. I can't wait to do another one of these. I think I might do another one maybe before Christmas. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know. I'd love to do one for Catch Me If You Can, because that's one of my all-time favorite movies, and I watch it every Christmas. It's one of my favorite Spielberg movies. Outside of like the Spielberg movies that everybody loves, the Raiders, E.T., Close Encounters, Jaws, Jurassic Park. I mean, the guy has th- Catch Me If You Can is like just wonderful. Anyway, it's been great. Happy holidays. Hopefully, I'll see you soon. Thanks for joining.